Today's program includes the Peugeot e-208 GTI is at risk of being a major failure. A legendary muscle car is finally arriving in Europe. Volkswagen's executives have completely lost their minds, and Germany and Italy are joining forces to wage war against France. Before today's automotive news, let's quickly mention Borso Bank, now offering a great welcome bonus. Borso Bank is simply the cheapest bank in France for the past 17 years, and right now, you can receive up to 200 euros as a welcome gift when you open your account with just a first deposit. On top of that, Borso Bank means zero account maintenance fees, free deposits and withdrawals even abroad, a customizable card with immediate or deferred debit, and on average 252 euros saved per year on banking fees. That's enough to buy you about 36 beautiful seat covers. Opening an account is 100% online, fast and secure, and most importantly, you can try it out without changing banks. And if one day you decide to switch over for good, their Easy Move service does the work for you. Taxes, electricity, health insurance. Easy Move goes around to all the agencies while you look at car ads you'll never actually buy. You can find the link in the description to open your Borso Bank account and receive your 200 euro bonus. And, as is often the case in the car world, when you miss out on a good deal, you end up regretting it. Do you remember the Peugeot 205 GTI, the first 208 GTI, those little hot hatches, nimble and light that smelled of burnt rubber and gave you that irresistible urge to lose your license with a smile? Well, whether you're happy about it or not, the legendary GTI badge is back. Peugeot has just announced with great fanfare at the 24 Hours of Le Mans the rebirth of the 208 GTI. 280 horsepower sent to the front wheels, 0 to 100 km/h in just 5.7 seconds. A mechanical limited slip differential, wider tracks, a lowered chassis, big brakes, and 18-inch wheels. But there's a huge catch the size of a 54 kilowatt-hour battery. This new 208 GTI is actually called the e-208 GTI, so it's fully electric. This electric 208 GTI shares its internals, its 280 horsepower motor, and its battery with its little companions. The Abarth 600e, the Alfa Romeo Junior Veloce, the Opel Mokka GSE, and the Lancia Ypsilon HF. And how are the sales of this formidable coalition of surprise sportiness in the sector doing? Well, we're approaching disaster. Let's start with Abarth, the brand with the Scorpion that was once synonymous with exhaust pipes loud enough to wake a cemetery. In the first 6 months of 2025, it sold 318 units of its 600e in Europe. At Lancia, the numbers are so low that they're not even being released. So we could talk about the Alfa Romeo Junior. That one is saving the day. Except out of the 60,000 orders, only 17 are for the 100% electric version. It's safe to say that the Veloce version is just a drop in the bucket among those 17%. And that's where Peugeot risks hitting a wall at full speed with its e-208 GTI. They're using exactly the same industrial formula that failed for Abarth, Opel, and Lancia, hoping that sticking 3 magic letters on the hatch will change things. Unless Peugeot manages the feat of finding the magic formula, because on the other side, there's a competitor who has figured out how to do it. The Alpine A290 is also electric, sure, but Alpine has done an incredible job on the chassis and the visual identity, and above all, they've positioned it intelligently. As a result, the Alpine A290 sold 8,100 units last year. The Peugeot e-208 GTI will arrive at the end of the year, and it will cost around 40,000 euros. Next, get ready, the Dodge Charger is officially coming to Europe. 60 years after its birth in 1966, the legend is landing on the old continent. But if the Charger is crossing the ocean, it's partly because it's sinking at home. Here's the explanation. Last year, Dodge launched the all-new Charger Daytona, and for the first time in its history to overtake the Mustang in the race to modernity, Dodge released a 100% electric Charger. The idea was to prove that you could make a muscle car that plugs into the grid. On paper, it's a monster. All-wheel drive, a giant 100 kilowatt-hour battery, and power starting at 536 horsepower for the RT version, up to 670 horsepower for the Scat Pack version. They even added a fake exhaust sound through the speakers to simulate a V8. Except that Americans, those who buy Dodge, are purists. They like red meat, cold beer, and the smell of gasoline. As a result, it's an absolute disaster. In 2025, Dodge barely managed to sell 7,000 units of its electric Charger Daytona in the United States. To give you an idea of the humiliation, in 2024, Dodge managed to sell 4 times as many old gas-powered Challengers, even though production had already stopped. Customers preferred to buy the leftovers rather than the new technological marvel. In the face of this disaster, Europe appears to be an unexpected lifeline. Dodge thinks that maybe the European market, which is more used to electric vehicles, will be more receptive. But let's not spoil our fun, because Dodge, sensing the danger, was smart enough not to come empty-handed. The brand has adopted an approach they call multi-energy. So basically, in addition to the electric versions, which will cost you around 100,000 euros, Europe will also get the combustion engine Charger. With the new Hurricane engine, a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder twin-turbo, producing 420 horsepower in the base version and 550 horsepower in the Scat Pack version. This includes 4-wheel drive, an 8-speed automatic, and a limited slip differential. So, the Dodge Charger in Europe, is it a stroke of genius or a swan song? In any case, it's a bold gamble. And keep in mind, just because it's coming to Europe doesn't mean it will necessarily come to France. To be continued. Now let's talk about the mental health of Volkswagen's executives. The scene takes place in a fancy hotel in London. Martin Sander, the brand's head of sales, sits down for an interview. They ask him about the ban on combustion engines in 2035 and drivers' doubts about electric vehicles. And then instead of giving us the usual corporate talk about the ecological transition, Mr. Sander drops a bombshell. He looks the journalist straight in the eye and asks a tricky question. I quote, "Do you know when horses were banned?" An awkward silence, and Sander replies with a sly smile. "Well, never. You can still buy a horse today." The metaphor has been made. For Volkswagen, gasoline cars are the horses of the 21st century. They won't disappear because a European law will ban them, but simply because people will realize it's an outdated technology. Like horses were replaced by cars in the early 20th century, combustion engines will be replaced by electric, according to the brand. So the question is this: has Volkswagen completely lost its mind, or are they right before everyone else? Let's start with the hypothesis that they've lost it. Should we remind ourselves that Volkswagen is facing one of its worst crises? The German giant recently announced tens of thousands of job cuts and billions of euros in net losses. Their factories are slow and Chinese competitors are taking market share. But what if behind this provocation, Volkswagen was actually right? Let's look at the numbers. In April 2026, electric car sales in Europe jumped by nearly 38%. In France, 1 out of every 4 new cars is now electric. In 1890, there were 150,000 horses in the streets of New York. 20 years later, automobiles had almost completely replaced them. No one passed a law to ban carriages. Cars were simply faster and more convenient. That's exactly what Martin Sander says. He hates the debate about banning combustion engines in 2035. For him, threatening customers with a cutoff date is the best way to turn them against you. Sander prefers improving charging infrastructure and letting people realize for themselves that electric cars are quiet, smooth, and pleasant to drive. So, visionary genius or an industrialist out of touch with reality? The truth is probably somewhere in between. We'll discuss a war involving billions of euros, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and underhanded tactics at every level. The battlefield, the automotive industry, the belligerents, Germany and Italy on one side and France on the other. Just a reminder, some time ago the European Union decided to end combustion engines by 2035. No more gasoline, no more diesel. Everyone will be driving electric. Except that, at the beginning of 2026, the European Commission, under massive pressure from certain lobbies, proposed to no longer require a 100% reduction in CO2 emissions, but only 90%. And that's when the blood started to flow. Germany and Italy, seeing the door crack open, decided to break it down with a battering ram. Let's begin with Germany. Its flagship automotive industry is nearing collapse. Volkswagen is laying off many workers. BMW and Mercedes are losing market share to Chinese competitors. Some studies say the shift to all-electric could threaten up to a third of sector jobs in Germany. The German government, pushed by its car manufacturers, is demanding that they save what they can by allowing hybrid cars after 2035. Hybrid technology is the German specialty. They put in a big battery to look good in the city and a huge combustion engine to drive fast on the highway. For its part, Italy is playing a different tune, just as loud. Rome is fiercely advocating for the authorization of synthetic fuels. The idea of being able to keep making combustion engines on the pretext that they'll run on so-called green fuel, which currently costs as much as caviar per liter. The Italian government loudly claims that it's about protecting 70,000 jobs in Italy. But faced with this German-Italian alliance ready to blow up the European Green Deal, who stands as a barrier? France. Paris has decided to put its foot down and has rallied 6 other countries behind it: Denmark, Spain, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Sweden. The group of 7, led by France, sent a scathing letter to Brussels. The message from the French Minister of Ecological Transition is clear. We're going to set things straight, she says. So why is France so fiercely pro-electric? Is it purely out of environmental consciousness? No, it's mainly because France has bet everything on electric. For French manufacturers, changing the rules of the game in the 89th minute is an industrial nightmare. If Europe suddenly allows German hybrids or Italian synthetic fuels, the entire French economic model collapses. The next meeting of environment ministers in Brussels promises to be electric or explosive, depending on your point of view. Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. Bye. Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. Bye.